Hi, this video is to summarize the concepts of Chapter 3. So in Chapter 3, you're talking about descriptive statistics and taking a look at some numerical measures to understand how a sample is. So we have measures of location and measures of variability. For measures of location, we focus our attention on the mean. And why we focus our attention on the mean is because the mean is the main measure that shows the central location of all values in a data set. Okay, and the mean is used to determine the measures of variability, especially the variance and the standard deviation. Remember, the variance is how much each observation varies of the mean. So you get the mean, and then observations vary around the mean. The same thing for standard deviation. So standard deviation is, again, we are standardizing the deviations in relationship to the mean. So this is the reason the mean and variance and standard deviation are so important, because you're trying to determine where most cases are, and in this case we're using the mean, and to measure how far each observation is from the mean. Then we have this variance and standard deviation. We have other measures, but these are the most important. And then we can talk about the histogram and the shape of distribution. So this is very important because we're going to be talking about the whole semester about the normal distribution, which has this shape. And if we know this shape, we know that we have the empirical rule, and the empirical rule says that the cases deviate from the mean in certain amount. So if I have plus and minus 1 standard deviation of the mean, we have 68% of all observations. If we have plus and minus 2 standard deviations of the mean, we have 95% of all cases, and so on. Okay, so you see that everything is revolving around the mean and variability around the mean. And then we can have the z-scores, which is really important concept. The z-score is a standardized score. So we are taking each observation in a sample. Remember the case of number of students in a class. So this means class size. So we have different classes with different class sizes, and then we can take the mean, we can take the standard deviation, and if we apply this formula to each observation, we can have their z-scores, which means how far in standardized scores, in standard deviations, each one of these classes are from the mean. Okay, so this concept is very important. And finally, we can use this z-scores idea of how much they deviate of the mean to detect outliers, which is very unusual observations, very small or very high observations in our case. And then again, going back to the case of class size, we don't have any outlier in this case because none of these cases is less than -3 or higher than 3. Okay, so this is the main idea of chapter 3. So you can understand how to describe a sample and try to understand how the data is distributed. Okay.